Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the ClaimChat Podcast. Today we have Chad Robinson. He is a personal injury and property insurance attorney, owns his own law firm. We're going to talk about all things insurance, AI, as well as any advice that he can give for up-and-coming attorneys. So enjoy. All right, Chad. So welcome, man. So I wanted to just open up. Let's talk a little bit about kind of your background, what made you kind of fall into legal profession, and kind of cover a couple of different things I wanted to ask you about as well. But let's start there.
Yeah, sure, man. Thanks for having me,
course.
obviously. And I'm a lawyer in Florida, Texas, Washington, California, and New York. Been a Florida lawyer the longest, since 2008. And, I got into it because I saw my father, who wasn't a lawyer growing up. He was a medical consultant for personal injury lawyers. And I saw that, and it was really interesting. So growing up, I kind of always had an eye towards becoming a lawyer, especially in South Florida where I grew up. So that's kind of how I fell into it. Nothing like amazing of a story, but it was just... just keep going in school, and, become a professional. That's kind of how I was always brought up. But times are changing. You don't even need like a college degree anymore to be a professional, almost. But yeah, so that's kind of how I fell into it. And I do a lot of personal injury, some first party, which is if you're going against your insurance company directly, of course, and you know that. And then we also do a little bit of TCPA work, which is if you get spam calls or spam text messages from people, we'll go after those companies and sue them because there's a federal act that says you can't do that. So that's a type of work that I do, and it's really rewarding to just help people in general. Worked for the insurance companies for a while at the beginning of my career. I said I can't do that anymore because it was just soul sucking.
In what way?
Well, the story that I always tell is that there was a widow that we were going up against. I was representing an insurance company, and we were going up against the widow, and the widow didn't have all these documents that documented her loss. And I was telling the insurance company, I was representing them to the best of my abilities and giving them good advice. And we were telling them one thing, and they wanted to decide to do another thing against her because of that. And because attorney-client privilege still exists, right. I can't say exactly,
right.
But the fact of the matter is that it just, there's an ethics code for lawyers, which is something that you must abide by, representing your client to the best of your abilities. But then, most people hopefully have a moral code, and my moral code just did not sit well with representing insurance companies.
Wow. How many years ago was that?
Well, I stopped working for insurance companies 2012 or so.
Okay.
So
and you opened your practice
in 2014.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's been a while, and worked a few places in between, and it was the right choice for me. I have a lot of friends who represent insurance companies still, and they're really good people, and they do a really great job.
Yeah.
It just wasn't for me.
Right.
It's just not for me, and
I imagine that helps you more than, say, just normal plaintiff attorneys. You have kind of that experience of that side, and then also the contacts you've kept.
Yeah,
the network.
A lot of lawyers market that, we know the playbook, and that's why we're going to go against them. And I actually take it from a different approach.
Okay.
Not only do I know the playbook, of course, but I know what the lawyers and the adjusters have to deal with on the other side of going up the hierarchy chain and things like that. So when they say a specific thing, I know what they have to go through in order to get the end result. So I'm a lawyer who shows compassion towards the other side a lot more than I think other lawyers do. I'm no less zealous in my advocacy, but
right.
I really try to be compassionate towards what the other side has to deal with because, again, we're all people doing separate jobs and really just want the best results for our respective clients.
Right. Sure, that's fair enough. And
Some people take it way too seriously,
Yeah.
though. I gotta say on that, on both sides. But but because I'm a plaintiff's lawyer,
Yeah.
on the insurance side and the defense side, they, sometimes they deal with it as though, the sky is falling,
Right.
and it's just not that way.
blown up a little bit.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about the state of play in insurance. You kind of touched on something there that I thought was interesting. We can maybe explore more. So you mentioned when you're dealing with the adjusters and attorneys. I don't deal so much directly with attorneys, but I work a lot with adjusters
Sure.
and other experts and consultants on the insurance side. And the compassion is definitely there. I agree with you. But it sounded also almost like even the attorneys at that level, they have to kick it over to their client, the insurance, to get some of these things approved. So kind of talk a little bit about, I guess, the evolution. You've been in the field a while now. How have things kind of changed as to when you entered, as to how they are now, and talk a little bit about kind of what you see the insurance operating as now.
Well, I think it's no surprise and no mystery that in recent years the insurance companies have really taken a stronghold on the legislature in Florida, as well as premiums rising and things of that nature. And I think that that's made it much harder to really resolve things because they have so much power, much more than they ever did. And I think that that is probably the biggest difference that I'm finding is that there's much more of a fight. And sometimes there should be a fight. Sometimes there should. But on the whole, most cases should and do get resolved. But there's much more of a fight. And that goes for third party, like personal injury cases, or first party, like property insurance cases. There's much more of a stronghold on what's taking place. And I'm not sure if the dynamic is such because they have more power or just because of other forces that I'm just not really familiar with. But it's just a sad state of affairs because I think that it's hard on it, as lawyers, right? There's this gimmick TikTok thing that I always watch. It's like, lawyers are always expected to be one thing, but no one asks how a lawyer is. I think it's increasingly harder. And I don't want to show too much compassion for the other side because whatever, but I think it's increasingly harder on their side to try to get reserves and settlement authority. But that's because, you know what, really, as I'm thinking about this, is that less and less things are covered under insurance policies. So less and less claims are just in their mind, probably.
Right. And per their contract of the policy, right? Like,
Yeah. I mean, it's sad. I look at my own insurance coverage and, first I had full water coverage, then it diminished to 25 grand and now it's at 10 grand. And I'm just thinking if I ever have a water incident, God forbid, knock on wood. I don't know if this is real wood, but knock on wood. That's going to be pretty catastrophic.
And this is a private carrier that you've seen that limit?
Same carrier I've had since I bought my house 6 years ago. Same carrier. Will remain nameless, but it rhymes with Ruthen Roke.
Okay.
And I don't like to name names.
Sure, yeah.
It's not my
keep
style.
it classy. Yeah.
Yeah. But, it is interesting that my house isn't that old.
Right.
It's
Any recent claims?
No, God forbid. Right.
Yeah, right.
But
you'd expect maybe some policy amendments there, but they've started capping you over the years for what?
Over the years, yeah.
For what?
For nothing. We've had no recent incidents. We even, they did a virtual inspection and we passed with flying colors, and they're like, "Oh, we're still going to underwrite you for 10 grand." Not only that, but I also replaced my roof on my own dime. I didn't even make a claim for my roof.
Right.
So, and that is probably a microcosm of a bigger situation where people are self-insuring in Florida, and people are really concerned about making claims. Now, to be fair, knowing what I know, I don't think I had a legitimate claim on my roof. therefore
Sure.
I would not make it.
Yeah.
But the water incidents are the ones that really concern me because
Those are a lot more common.
yeah, and the matching limitations.
Yep.
As we get further down the rabbit hole,
Yeah.
the matching limitations are really concerning too. Matching is, if I don't know, your listeners and viewers know what matching is, but matching was a wonderful thing in Florida where if an insurance company found damage to a damaged area, they would fix the non-damaged portion that were adjacent to the damaged areas to make it look aesthetically pleasing, which I think is very fair.
Right.
Not all states have that.
Yeah.
And that's slowly diminished. I mean, some people have
3% caps.
3%, 5% caps, and that is problematic too.
Right.
In addition, so
Starting to see as well the depreciation schedules on
Yeah.
roofs. On that one, honestly, I can kind of see both sides a little more. The matching is kind of like an indemnity question because it really becomes like, if it was matching before and now it's not due to that coverage or what have you, there's a question. But for the roof, if it's a 25-year-old roof and the expected age is 30 years, it's on the end of its useful life and a catastrophic storm rips through it, how much does the insurance company really owe for a new roof? So I can see that one. But yeah, when you put those stacked on top of each other, it becomes a question of like, what is this policy really worth,
Yeah, I'm not so sure policies are worth anything more than the paper they're written on, and just merely to comply with mortgage standards at this point in time.
Right.
There are some policies out there which still provide full coverage, but those are so astronomically priced that no individual really is going to be able to get that. At that point, you just self-insure yourself.
Right.
Or you do what a lot of people did, after Hurricane Milton or Helene, and you just sell the property as is.
Yep.
And it's it's a sad state of affairs, and the problem is there's so much propaganda on the other side that it gets through, and there's so much money on the other side that things get through, and then we on our side, on the property insurance advocacy side or the plaintiff side, just look like we're whining and crying. And I'm not even whining and crying necessarily as a plaintiff's lawyer. I'm whining and crying as a homeowner.
As a consumer. Yeah.
I keep seeing this stuff in the news that, premiums are going down and things like that. I'm not seeing it.
Yeah, I haven't seen it either.
So
yeah,
I'm not.
And yet the coverages have shrunken, or been limited. So that's also like a breaking point, like you said. Not as everyone has their biases, but as a consumer, so this should be like unbiased in this context. As a consumer, you would expect if the premiums stayed level or were increasing, you would get at least the same or better coverage. But it's the opposite that's happening, is the premiums for me static or slightly increased, and the coverages are worse, if not more restricted. And there's like, I wonder, what do you think would be what's it going to take for there to be some sort of correction? Do you think a correction is possible? What would even a correction look like to you?
I live a little bit more in the negative world than maybe some other people. I don't think that a correction's going to occur. I think Florida has seen its beneficial days of insurance, but for a catastrophe, I don't think that you're going to have normal everyday coverage. I don't think if a flood happens in your house, or a pipe fails, or a windstorm that's not a named hurricane, you're going to be able to fully recover financially. That you're going to have to take out loans, and you're going to have to HELOC and all of those things. I think that is going to occur. Now, to be fair, that is a price that we pay living on a coast, living in a tri-county area, that we do. But it's not fair. It doesn't have to be fair. They're private corporations.
Right.
There's no need to be fair. However, I say that, and the first thing that comes to mind is how unfair Citizens is, which is not a private corporation.
Let's break into that.
So Citizens started as the insurance of last resort, meaning if you can't get any other insurance, Citizens state funded or state run rather, and funded by taxpayers, whether or not you have a premium or not. That was supposed to be the insurance of last resort. Unfortunately, there were so many people who couldn't get insurance that Citizens became the first choice.
Yeah, especially in South Florida.
Yeah, and they're doing really well. And then they put something in their contract where if you challenge them, you have to do it in a secret arbitration that's not reported. Well, you can find the reporting online, to be fair, but it's not in front of a jury anymore, and it's on Citizens' dime, and there's ethical questions that run into that, whether everyone can be fair, and how that's run. I always thought that it's supposed to be a jury of the peers that are supposed to determine it. And if Citizens is right, then Citizens is right. If Citizens is wrong, then Citizens is wrong. And that's how I always thought it should be and could be and would be. But they figured out a way of getting it into this arbitration that happens a lot faster, which is that's a benefit, that it happens a lot faster. But at the same time, to what detriment? I believe like 98% or some ridiculous
I've seen numbers,
have been
in the 90s.
Have been decided against the homeowner.
Right.
And it's just not. It just can't be the case that every single homeowner that brings a challenge to Citizens' decision regarding coverage is either. Is just not.
Now, are
correct.
those for outright denials only, or is that pertaining to any dispute as to the value of the loss?
Any lawsuit that you would have against Citizens
is arbitrated.
You would. Ooh,
you're good.
Microphone wanted to come too close. Stay over there. Any lawsuit that you would bring against Citizens would occur in that area. Now, they would go to appraisal or perhaps for underpaid claim or something like that, or a underpaid claim in our mind.
Right.
But it's unfair. It helps when all the plaintiffs' lawyers get around and commiserate. It's not going to change anything. We saw that when I think it was last year when the prevailing party attorney's fees was a concept in someone's mind in Tallahassee, that attorney's fees could come back in some way, shape, or form to make it fair, to level the playing field, and that just wasn't going to happen. So I don't think it's going to be fair again. It doesn't have to be fair. It's kind of what we live in, but it's a problem. It's a real problem for a lot of people.
Yeah, and on that note, to kind of, I guess, turn it to the policyholders, what are some misconceptions that you found, like, I guess when a client comes to you, at that point, that they have about their coverages, about the claim process? What do you kind of see on their side when they're coming to you that are, just to get a little more informed for their part, going in?
Yeah, I think, over the years, it's always been a lack of knowledge. Like, oh, I didn't know my insurance policy didn't cover that. I didn't know this. I didn't know that. And that comes from education. And that comes at the agent level. I think that a lot of agents don't take the time to go over those things, $10,000 water caps or something like that.
Right.
Where for a water claim, they're only offering you $10,000. That's what water cap is. Sometimes I find myself when we're in like conversations with people in the business, we use like our
lingo,
abbreviations, and then someone watching this is like, well, what's that?
Yeah, true.
And this is about education too, so I'm not educated.
Yeah.
But another thing is I didn't know what an insurance policy was for. A lot of people think it's a warranty. Like if something breaks in your house, it's not automatic that an insurance policy covers that.
Right. Doesn't handle maintenance.
Right.
Yeah.
I've had clients tell me, well, my air conditioning stopped working, so I made a claim. Nope. That's
Yeah.
not what that is for. That's a warranty. That's a home warranty. That's completely different. That's not what an insurance policy is for. And, that skews claim numbers.
Yeah.
These people are making claims that they shouldn't make. They're not asking, they're getting bad advice from people. They're not asking, they're asking their agents if they should make a claim, and agents are coming at the claim perspective from a different way. They're saying, well, am I going to be able to get underwriting for this person next year if they make a claim? No, I wouldn't make that claim.
Mhm.
But if you're speaking to an attorney or a public adjuster,
Right.
they may have a different viewpoint where it may be beneficial for you to have a claim and worry about getting policy coverage down the road, because there just may be an imbalance of ideas. And
Right.
I think that someone getting advice not to make a claim is okay, and not making a claim is okay.
Yeah, for
and
sure. In
advisable.
certain cases, yeah.
But I think that you need to go to the agent, to an adjuster, a public adjuster,
Yeah.
to an attorney to make those decisions for you. Same thing on the personal injury side. I think that not all accidents are made the same, and that it's a very invasive process on both sides, first party and third party. Those are really people just don't know that. So
Yeah. Talk a little bit about the personal injury side, because my company focuses strictly on property.
Sure.
I don't have really any experience adjusting car accident claims. How do those work in terms of coverages and the like? I know you guys have had some experience, some changes, the attorneys, in terms of how that works, but have coverages also changed? Like, how does that kind of look for you guys?
So luckily insurance cover, because it's third party.
Right.
The thing in Florida that you have to worry about is that there's no bodily injury coverage, which means that especially in the areas where we're in right now, which are dangerous areas to drive in,
Yeah.
and also, in Orlando area with I-4,
Right.
that you could be involved in an accident with someone who has no insurance coverage. And if you're getting hurt in an accident, then you're not going to be able to recover for any pain, suffering, any of your medical bills above what is personal injury protection that it pays for. That's kind of like the no-fault insurance that you hear about sometimes. Right. And that's why it's so advisable to get uninsured or underinsured motorist coverage, because of the fact that somehow, some way, we've addressed all these things with insurance in the legislature, but we have not addressed whether or not people need to cover themselves minimally,
right,
for car accidents. So get that coverage, get that uninsured motorist coverage. It's not too expensive. If they offer it, get some coverage,
right,
because if you get into an accident with someone and they don't have any coverage for you, what if you're out of work?
Right.
What if you have a God forbid, something debilitating for many, many years?
Right.
So that's problematic. That's a coverage situation that hasn't changed in years. But the other thing that's really changed on the personal injury side is that there used to be something called pure comparative negligence. That means if you were 1% not at fault for your accident, 1% not at fault, you could make a claim. No one's going to make a claim for 1%, but you could. And then for example, if you recovered $100,000 from a jury and you were found to be 99% at fault, then you would get $1,000. That's how pure comparative negligence works. So now they've changed it and they call it tort reform. They paint it, really nicely.
Yeah.
And if you are 51% or more responsible for your injuries, or for the accident rather, you're not able to recover anything. It's called modified comparative negligence. So that's a big change. Look, some states have it where if you're 1% at fault, you're 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 not able to recover it at all. So
That's
I guess
extreme. Yeah.
yeah. So I guess and that a state like that is Maryland, but
Wow.
So I guess if
Could be
we're
worse.
yeah, it can always be worse, but it can be better. And look, I look at it from two sides, right? I look at it from because let's be honest, I run a law firm. A law firm has to run a profit.
Right.
So I look at it from a business side for sure. And so do defense attorneys and so do insurance companies. So I'm not sure what's so wrong with that. But I look at it from an educational side, and I look at it from a human side of just like, these are consumers you're supposed to protect. How is this protecting them?
Right.
And not only above and beyond that, not only is how is this protecting them, but I'm a consumer too.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, it affects all of us.
yeah,
It really
so,
does.
I could be in that position.
Right.
I could be in one of my clients'
Right.
positions. So.
And that's something I've thought about increasingly over these years, because it's like a running joke on the adjuster side, like, no good news. There's been like no good news legislatively or policy wise. You saw this new thing in the policy limit, so it's no good news. And I've wondered more and more. I'm like, man, if hopefully I never have any personal injury claim or property claim, but I'm like, even with my knowledge and experience, I'm sure I would do better than the average policyholder filing their own claim. Not on the personal injury side, focusing more on property, but like, I honestly, like, the deck is so stacked where it's like the best I would be able to do is provide a solid estimate and just kind of skip some of those games that are played. But like, if it's a 10K cap, there's not really much to work through. So how do you feel as a consumer? How are we able to kind of help them still with these things? What are some things that you're trying to maybe let them know about, either education wise or any initiatives? Have you given it any thought?
As far as like consumers and trying
Yeah,
to
just
help
empowering them more and seeing like what they can do at least proactively maybe, and get, like, such as like getting uninsured motorist coverage, those things before the loss.
Yeah.
That they can position themselves a little better.
Yeah, I mean, I've started doing a lot more social media education. There's a lot of law fluencers.
And you do a great job, by the way. You can
Thanks,
follow
man.
this guy on LinkedIn, please.
Yeah.
This guy's amazing.
Yeah, also social media,
All over.
Your
Yeah,
Damage
yeah.
Lawyer.
Yeah.
But and I have a smattering of followers, which is nice, and I hear back from them. I try to do educational and entertainment, but it's hard because there's no good news. There's no real helpful information.
Right.
There's nothing coming down the pike. The legislature is a little, they're a little myopic in the way that they think about things. And I think that, look, I think that it's going, luckily we've skirted around hurricanes and catastrophes for a while. As far as the personal injury side, I don't know what's going to change that. I think they're a little hands off on that for a little bit because they just changed it.
Mm-hmm.
As far as the property insurance side, I think that we've skirted around catastrophes. We've skirted around hurricanes for a little bit. And I think that the way that, God forbid, the next catastrophe is handled may have some initiatives to sculpting how it should be done. But the problem is that what's in place right now will be in place for the next hurricane.
Right.
And that's not looking good.
Right.
And that's problematic.
Yeah.
That's a lot. That's very problematic.
It's kind of an elephant in the room because I've spoken to this across anyone that's in the industry that we kind of review that is, like you said, we've kind of skirted across it, and we haven't had a stress test since, in terms of mass volume of claims on the wind side that were needed to be paid, like Hurricane Ian, just really as a wind event and flood event in Naples and Fort Myers, but really as a wind event was catastrophic. I think even topping, Idalia and Milton and Helene, all catastrophic in their own way, but Ian was a separate beast. We haven't had one of those incidents since the tort reform,
Sure.
attorneys' fees, since the matching limits, since the what have like all these new things that have come down the pike. We really haven't had that stress test, and I think that's gonna, like you're saying, that's gonna really be it's gonna be a big question mark. You know, how that actually plays out. I think a lot of people are gonna be caught surprised.
Yeah,
when it comes time to make a claim.
I do too. I think that if I remember correctly, I mean, a lot of the matching limitations don't always apply to hurricanes, but you know,
Oh, no?
we're not. I mean, we're not even gonna. You know, we don't even need to talk about a hurricane, so to speak. But like just a major windstorm,
Sure.
You know, or a tornado or
Right.
something like that. We had a couple years where there were massive EF3s and things like that, and those are really big. The thing that no one even talks about, and we learned a lot from, well, we should have learned a lot from, with Hurricane Helene and Milton were flood. No one knows
Yeah,
about
man.
flood, and that's
Stuff
a whole
was
different
crazy.
beast.
Yeah.
And you know, that's usually, most people don't have private policies for that, so that
Right.
is federally funded, and,
Right.
and it's
Home
it's-
insurance does not cover flood.
No.
And the rising water, that's a huge misconception.
Yeah, so though, I mean, that you can have a whole series of podcasts just on flood claims
Yeah.
alone and flood insurance.
Yeah.
But that's probably another thing that people didn't know about. And even if you're not in a flood claim or a flood area, you could still get flooded out.
Right,
And
right.
thousands of people had that happen where they were not required to get flood insurance. They didn't get flood insurance.
Right.
And the flood insurance is sometimes the premium's under $1,000
Yeah.
a year.
Yeah, especially if you're not in a flood prone zone.
And they got massively
Yeah, man.
you know, screwed over. So
And that on that note about flood, you know, that's not just rising water, storm surge, what have you. That can be from just heavy rain. You saw that in Fort Lauderdale.
Oh, yeah.
I think 2000. What was that? 23.
yeah.
Once in a 100 years rain event. You know those are flood claims. Those aren't home insurance claims.
No,
and there was a lot of issues on that side of it.
Yeah, Miami
you know?
Beach gets flooded every time there's
Oh,
like
please,
a
yeah.
you know, a drizzle.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's really concerning. It's environment with legislature and lobbying and money and things like that, and it's not a good combination. And it's people's lives, and it's people's livelihood, and it's
Right.
people's investments, and
Yeah.
it's people's businesses. And you know, no one comes to us because something great happened in their
Right.
life, and that always weighs heavily on me.
Yeah, man.
So
Yeah. How do you see? I wanted to see what your thoughts are on AI, how it's coming into play, how you've been seeing it, and then also how you've actually been implementing it in your business. But let's start with like claims.
Sure.
Seen some news articles about it potentially being used. Have you seen it, like any confirmed cases where it's like, yeah, this is definitely AI punching these things out?
yeah, I mean, so everyone's talking about AI.
Yeah.
It's it used to be Nelly EI, but now it's AI.
Yeah.
That was an old joke. That
Oh,
was a stupid
Yeah,
joke.
over my head. Yeah.
Anyway,
Sorry guys.
I didn't see. That's how
There's-
I know that I'm a little older. But
Yeah.
so, but you know, everyone's talking about AI
Yeah.
in the insurance world. They're implementing their own AI programs to analyze claims faster, even though they're not necessarily spitting it out faster. But you're being put into, you know, they Allstate, for example, used to have this program a little further back called Colossus, and Colossus was a way of analyzing personal injury cases where they would pop it in, they would plug it in, the algorithms would spit out a number as to how much your case was worth. That's
Wow.
basically what had happened. So it was like the preliminary AI type of world. Now they can do that even faster and even better. I use quotes,
Yeah.
better, but
Better for them.
they are using it.
Yeah.
Yeah, they are using it. State Farm, I know, does virtual inspections, and all of that stuff is being analyzed
Yeah.
by AI on the other side, and that's why That's why I think that out of every professional area of the world, lawyers are being targeted with AI more than anyone, because AI knows, or the legal tech knows, that on the other side they're using it more and more. They're using their own, they're making their own, they're programming their own stuff, and that's why the plaintiff's bar is trying to come out with so much new stuff. I think I'm targeted with AI, new AI programs and things like that on a daily basis, and it's pretty annoying.
Yeah. Everyone kind of promising the next
Yeah.
best whatever.
Yeah, nothing really compares with the stuff that you can do on your own if you just put some time into it, you know, on Claude, or even, you know, look, I know that Claude is the new ChatGPT, and everyone says ChatGPT is old and gray and not moving. It still works well for thinking out
research,
flows and
even
thoughts,
topics.
and I wouldn't research on
Not so
it.
much?
No, I wouldn't
No?
research on it, but it hallucinates. It's like you know, I think it gives you good ideas though, and it helps you think out
More brainstorming.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think that that's where ChatGPT is really ahead of the curve than Claude and Anthropic in general, and that's where I use it. It's a little more geared towards agreeing with you
Right.
than others are.
Yeah.
Which is why I think brainstorming with it is actually helpful, because it will take you on the journey that your brain is trying to take you on, but not as fast.
Yeah, right.
And you know, as far as Claude Cowork and things like that, I mean, that's just pretty much amazing. Is that if you're not a computer programmer, you can make apps for your own law firm really quickly. I mean, I have settlement dashboards for my cases. Obviously, I protect confidential information, but what it's doing is it's analyzing trends with certain insurance companies as to how their offers are coming in on certain cases, with certain injuries for personal injury, and then with certain scopes for property damage. And this is all being, it has to be taught,
Right.
but it's able to spit back out a repeatable method where that's really helpful.
And
for
who's
AI.
been who did that before? So I'm always very interested in this, and you're an adopter, which I love. You're a unique case, similar to me actually. Like, we're operators in a specific field, but we've also adopted the AI ourselves. You know, so I've always seen AI right now, at least it may exceed this in the near future, but right now there's like an 80-20 where, you know, it can really do about 80% of the legwork, of even the thinking, of the execution, etc. But there's that 20%, maybe even 10% that the expert has to bring to really put it together.
Sure.
Because you could put a dashboard together, a settlement dashboard together, and let it kind of just do research back end and analyze it. But you're going to see it's like kind of skew. Like, you're going to have to tailor it. So I really love it. I've been using it a lot for the same type of purposes, you know, like kind of streamlining those settlements, those scope comparisons. So before, I was doing that manually, or my adjusters were doing that manually, or we had a desk assistant, you know, for these things. So like, who did that for you before you started implementing the AI? Is that something you had a paralegal do, or?
I think it's, I mean, I did a lot of the analysis.
Okay.
It's hard on my side as an attorney to farm it out to a paralegal. Excuse me. Your mic is going to jump for that one. But I think that I'm not sure if I replaced a person with what I did, but I replaced time. And that is as good as replacing a person.
Right.
I don't want to replace people in my law firm. That's my goal, is not to replace people, but just to enhance whatever they have.
Right. I love that.
It also helped with, you know, the easy stuff it helped with was translating. I have clients who don't speak English, and it really helped with conversations between them and in real time before some of the meta apps came out recently, but it helped with translation between, you know, I had a client who spoke Mandarin. I don't know that. And it was a ability for me to communicate with them in a smooth way, in a conversational way, without necessarily hiring a translator. So I guess in that way it replaced someone.
Yeah.
But yeah, my goal is not to replace anyone in my law firm. You know, I find that even like the silly stuff of converting PDFs to words are easier now. Things that used to require these like little small apps
Right.
are not
It's all in
required
one.
anymore.
Yeah.
Make a spreadsheet. You don't need to do that anymore. And I always say that AI is one thing, but AI without automation is like a really nice car without a driver. So
Right.
I guess it's more along the lines of like a really nice Tesla without autopilot.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess.
Yeah.
But and I think that law firms more and more are going to be implementing this and should be implementing it. And obviously, there's case law out there that says that nothing you say to an AI LLM is confidential.
Right.
But that was an individual. So clients out there should not be spewing what their attorneys say into a chat GPT and then giving it back to the lawyers. I think I have clients.
Have you had that happen?
Yeah, I have clients who do their own research
Yeah.
and will spit something back out to me, and it's clearly AI. I've seen enough AI generated stuff that I can tell it's AI the way that someone's speaking and may not know prompts well yet, which is okay. Because at least they really want to be actively involved.
Sure.
But at the same time, I think that's why the lawyers are not going to be replaced because
There's nuance.
there's nuance, there's experience. I can't teach Claude or Claude Legal, whatever's coming out right now, Claude Legal. I can't teach Claude Legal, and no one can teach Claude Legal how a judge in X county is going to react to a certain case with your experience that
Right.
because you can put in like how many times the judge decided one way versus the other. You can tell that, but there's little nuances, like you said, that you're just not going to be able to teach to a LLM for them to determine things.
And it's almost one of those things in that scenario where it's like a case with very similar details can have one minor variance, and that completely impacts the verdict or the settlement. So it's very difficult to map. It's almost like the AI is really good at mapping like big picture.
Yeah.
And kind of like you can make it drill down, but again, like you said, like there is that element of input, from the expert.
Yeah, I think that it can get too dangerous, and the Anthropic chairman is always constantly warning us about relying too much on the AI.
Right.
So, for example, for me, a motion that used to take a week to do now takes maybe a day.
Wow.
But at the same time, what I'm doing with that motion is that's the first draft of the motion. That's
you're
not
still
my
gonna review
finalized
it.
draft.
Yeah.
I'm reviewing it. I'm making sure the cases are correct.
Yeah, man.
I'm not turning it in with hallucinated cases like some of these jokers around the country.
I've seen that. They got sanctioned, right? Have they gotten some?
There's been some hefty sanctions. I mean,
that's crazy.
And I deal in federal court, and federal court judges are not going to take this nonsense.
Yeah. Because that's just like it's just lazy, right? Like
It is
that's like lazy attorney work.
Yeah, it is lazy. It's really easy to look up a case to see if it exists. It's really easy to
Clip
do
that.
Yeah, it's really, really simple. And look, that's not like me saying I'm a better attorney than these people.
No, you just
I may not be
a little extra mile work,
but like, am I going to just make sure that I'm turning something in that at least has? It may not be. It may not win, and it may not be. It may not be correct in any other sense, but it'll
be real.
It'll have the correct law.
Oh my god,
and that's
great.
But that, I mean, it's so sad. Like the Florida Supreme Court just came out with a new rule that said by signing a document, you're indicating that the stuff within that document is true and correct, including any AI or cases. I thought that was the boundary to begin with, but I thought that was
It's like a given. Like when you submitted that.
I thought that was what happened anyway, but they had to make it a rule. AI is amazing. It's really cool.
Yeah.
It's and you can use it for everyday stuff. I use it for, like, we were planning a trip, me and my wife, and I was like, we have this amount of days and this amount of time period. Tell me 5 things to definitely do that day. And they said, well, for weather purposes, you do this. If there's no weather, you do that. So it's very cool. It's a very cool tool,
Yeah.
and that's all it should remain is a tool.
Right.
It's not something to live by.
Yeah.
But I do appreciate like when my father-in-law will use it and then just text me what it says, and it's like this really long thing.
Huge output.
It's like, okay, I can't even imagine the prompt. It was probably just like, do this.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think honestly, I think automation is
real sauce.
is amazing. Is more amazing than AI is. I think that LLMs are getting easier to recreate.
Yeah.
But the automation, the triggers and the workflows and things like that, I think are pretty amazing. And that's the stuff that's really going to help people in the future.
Right.
It's just document automation, where, we have it in our law firm where if we sign up a client, a letter gets drafted immediately. And that's not something that we had before. And and then there's checks and balances where it says, okay, did you review this letter? Check.
Yes.
Do you want to send this letter out? Yes.
Yeah.
Check. So that's something that we've implemented. So I think that is, and this because of what you do. I think that's what's really changing the world is automation, not AI.
Right. Yeah, I'm with you on that. Before we get you out of here, I wanted to talk just a little bit about, and we touched on the business side, any attorneys that are kind of getting into the labor force now, getting out of law school. What are some tidbits, piece of advice? What would you recommend? I would imagine learning how to use AI is probably one of them, but up and comers, what do you recommend? What should they do?
That's a really tough question. Because the world is changing and a lot of people have said, we didn't even go into the real stuff that's problematic in the legal field. We didn't even go into private equity.
We'll go second. We'll do a follow-up.
That's the real problem. That's a real problem in the legal world right now, especially with what I do. Not automation or AI and things like that and replacing good workers. I think that if I had to do it over again, and I had law school loans, so I said to myself, I want the highest paying job out of law school that there is, and that's what I went for. But I think there's a lot to be said. For example, my brother-in-law just graduated law school. He went to the PD's office in Broward County, so working for the state. Getting that trial experience, things like that, I think is going to put you worlds ahead of any other lawyer. And the reason is because I've met lawyers who started around 2020, 2021, who've never seen the inside of a courtroom. And that is an analysis that you can't replace by AI, you can't replace by automation, you can't replace that. You can't replace how a jury is going to determine something, or how you feel in front of a jury, or how a judge looks at you if you say something ridiculous. You can go to as many motion calendars. So what happens is if you write a motion during litigation, the judge will call you in and she or he will hear arguments from both sides and then determine something.
Yeah.
But getting that trial experience, and seeing it from all the way through, from the start of a case to the end of a case, through trial, through post-trial verdict, post-trial motions, I think is going to be the difference maker between new lawyers who are really valuable and not. Because again, you can learn AI, you can learn automation, but I think that using the inside of a courtroom will be invaluable to
that
your
trial
future, your future employers. I think that, and to be fair, I'm not coming up. This is not something new.
Yeah,
I'm not coming up with like a new idea for people, but I think that more so now than ever, because so much stuff is remote.
Right.
That getting that trial experience, picking a jury, things like that, you've seen the end, and now you know what it takes to get there, and that will make you more valuable to a future employer. Additionally, I know that a lot of lawyers right out of law school now are going on their own too, which is something that I could not even conceive when I graduated law school. So that may be something to consider too, is that if you just have an entrepreneurial spirit, just go for it, man.
Do you think that's advisable as a, like, from a practical standpoint, entrepreneurial, and I'm all about it, I respect that, but on the practical implications of breaking out on your own?
I'm a little more risk adverse than most
Me
people.
too, a little bit.
But I know lawyers who went out on their own right out of law school and have done amazing for themselves and their clients. And it just takes a special type of person.
Yeah,
For
a little more careful.
For me, it took several years to gain up enough courage, I guess you could say, to go out on my own. But it's been a wonderful experience. So
Yeah.
I think those would be the two things. So to summarize, get some real trial experience, see the inside of a courtroom, and then if you're ballsy enough, just go for it.
I love it. I love that. That's a great point to end on. I wanted to open the floor and use this camera, plug the socials, plug the firm, and let them know how to get in touch with you.
Sure. So I'm Chad Robinson. Been a lawyer for about 18 years now in Florida, Texas, California, New York, and Washington. We practice personal injury. We also do insurance coverage, TCPA work in those states. You're welcome to reach out to me on social. Your Damage Lawyer is what I'm known by on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. And if you see me walking around, say, hey. Oh, you know what? I didn't even mention. I'm also the voice of the Miami Hurricanes. So,
There you go.
the stadium voice of the Miami Hurricanes. So
Nice.
we do basketball and football. So if you see me there, say hello.
I love it. All right, Chad, we'll get you out of here.
All right.
Thank you,
Hey,
man.
thanks, man.
Of
Thanks
course.
for having me.
See you guys.
Appreciate it.
Beautiful.